On Zombie Reddit, today's story is...
My sister-in-law said she was a pregnant gold digger, her dad canceled their wedding payment and now she owed $100,000. We recently had my baby shower, a small and intimate event that was only attended by my fiancé, our families, and a select group of close friends. To give some context, Marcus, my fiancé, and I are 23 years old and have been in a relationship for 2 years. 6 months ago, when I discovered I was pregnant, we decided to take the step of moving in together. I must admit that at first I had my doubts. We were very young, our relationship was relatively recent, we had never shared a home before, and we had so many plans for the future. What's more, our families hardly knew each other, which added another layer of concern to the situation. However, both Marcus and I felt a deep desire to have this baby. We decided that, with time and effort, we could overcome any obstacle that came our way. So, moved by our love for each other and the desire to start a family, we decided to go ahead with the pregnancy. My family supported us from the start, but the situation with his family was completely different. Marcus's 27-year-old sister Tori and his mother Ellie experienced a radical change in their attitude towards me. Before Marcus broke the news to them, the pregnancy, our decision to have the baby, my move-in with them and our plans to marry after the birth, they had always been kind to me. However, after the announcement, their treatment became noticeably cold and distant. Although they asked Marcus to keep their comments secret, he decided to share everything they had said with me. Their objections were based on 2 main arguments. The first was that Tori was due to marry her long-term partner later this year and felt that our news would steal her attention. The second, far more hurtful, suggested that my only motivation for having the baby was to secure a marriage that would give me entry into their wealthy family. While the first argument struck me as childish, the second was deeply offensive. It is true that Marcus' family enjoys a privileged economic position. His father owns a law firm and his mother runs a restaurant. However, my own family, although not wealthy, lives comfortably thanks to my parents' work in the publishing sector. The insinuation that I was trying to trap Marcus into a pregnancy for financial reasons was absolutely disgusting to me. Fortunately, Marcus never gave credence to these accusations. In fact, he informed me of everything so that I could be forewarned in my interactions with Tori and Ellie. We did not completely cut off contact with them to avoid conflict, especially since Ben, Marcus's father, had expressly requested that the family peace be maintained due to the important events that were approaching in the following 2 years, including Tori's and our weddings. As Ben had come to my defense, Marcus and I decided to maintain a cordial attitude with Tori and Ellie without completely breaking off contact. They adopted a similar stance, so for a while the situation remained in a respectful balance. Following Ben's advice, and considering that my pregnancy was already visible, we got officially engaged a couple of months ago. Ben suggested that although we could get married whenever we wanted, it was appropriate to formalize our engagement. Marcus and I agreed, so we celebrated the engagement with a small gathering. However, our engagement seemed to intensify Tori and Ellie's displeasure. Throughout the celebration, they kept commenting on how close I was to Tori's wedding date. Their concern seemed unfounded to me, as we had made it very clear that we would not be getting married until after the birth of the baby, and that we would need several months to organize everything. This meant that our wedding would probably take place approximately 1 year after Tori's. The situation came to a head during my baby shower when, without any prior warning, Tori approached me and asked to see my engagement ring. When I showed it to her, she started making loud comments about the size of the diamond and its probable high cost. Then she proceeded to make an especially cruel comment, suggesting that even if her brother decided not to marry me, my baby and I could live off the value of the ring, adding that I should keep it safe in case my plan to trap her brother with a baby didn't work. Since it was a small gathering and we were all close, her words were heard by everyone present. Although she tried to give it a joking tone, it was clear that she was serious, and only Ellie found her comments funny. I was speechless, and although Marcus started to confront his sister, it wasn't necessary because Ben intervened immediately, shouting at Tori and demanding an apology. When she refused, arguing that she was only joking, Ben informed her that if she was so concerned about gold diggers, she could pay for her own wedding, as he wasn't planning to contribute a single penny. At that moment, I found my voice and expressed my agreement with that decision, which led Ben to confirm that he would indeed not be financing the wedding. As expected, this triggered a heated discussion and a great deal of drama. My friends left, leaving only the families. The confrontation went on for a considerable time, with my family, Marcus, Ben and I on one side, and Tori and Ellie on the other. There were many tears and shouting, until finally I asked Tori and Ellie to leave, arguing that all this tension was not healthy for the baby. After everyone had left, Ben stayed behind for a moment to apologize for everything that had happened and assured me that he would completely understand if I decided not to have any more contact with his wife and daughter. He explained that he no longer had to pretend to be cordial with them, given that the situation had completely spiraled out of control. I accepted his apologies, understanding that, as a traditionalist man, he had only tried to keep his family together, although clearly that was not what Ellie and Tori wanted. Several days have passed since the incident. Marcus and I have cut off communication with his family, except for Ben, but Tori and Ellie have not stopped sending messages to Marcus, blaming me for ruining everything, expressing their concern for the future of the wedding, and pointing out that even Ben is not talking to his wife, insisting that I must resolve the situation. Although Marcus has made clear his position of not getting involved in the matter, I can tell that he is affected, and I also feel guilty for having expressed my support for Ben's decision not to pay for his daughter's wedding, which triggered this whole situation. Addition. To clarify the financial situation of the wedding, as many are confused about how the payment issue works so close to the date and with everything practically organized, here is the explanation. Both Marcus and Tori have their own wedding funds, and all initial payments have already been made. Tori and her fiancé's family were responsible for covering these upfront expenses. The agreement was that Ben would cover the expenses after the wedding and reimburse Tori with a check for what she had already paid. They organized things this way to simplify the process, but now that all the arrangements are made, Tori cannot cancel because she has made several deposits that are not refundable. If her father doesn't end up reimbursing her, she will have to cover all the expenses herself, and neither she nor her fiancé and his family are in such a comfortable financial situation. They are in a similar financial position to my family. In short, they cannot afford the kind of wedding that Tori has planned, and that is why they are in such a difficult situation now. Update 1. I want to express my sincerest thanks to everyone who has responded to my post, both in comments and in private messages. I recently had a deep conversation with Marcus about this whole situation. I asked him directly if he was upset with me, acknowledging my role in all of this, and he assured me that, although he is affected by the family problems, I am the last person he would be angry with. He explained that he is proud that I defended him and that my support for Ben's decision about the wedding was not unjustified, considering Tori and Ellie's constant insinuations that I was a gold digger trying to trap Marcus with a pregnancy. He confessed that he admires my strength for having put up with their behavior for months, keeping up appearances despite knowing their true feelings towards me. He explained that, although until now they had been careful to keep their comments private and not confront me directly, Tori's behavior at the baby shower was completely unacceptable, and he is satisfied that I have taken a stand on the matter. He revealed to me that his current stress is mainly due to the certainty that Tori and Ellie will not leave things as they are. Although he had hoped for an eventual reconciliation, current circumstances make that seem unlikely, and he is particularly concerned that the situation will not have improved by the time our baby is born. By putting myself in his place, I fully understood how difficult this whole situation must be for him. Although I had initially given him space thinking that was what he needed, after our conversation, I decided to embrace him, which caused him to let off steam emotionally. He opened his heart to me, expressing his deep sadness and how difficult it was for him to even block the numbers of his mother and sister, since, after all, they are his family and he wanted them to be part of his baby's life. However, I also felt strongly that they should apologize to me and fix the situation. The problem is that Tori and Ellie persist in blaming me for everything. They maintain that Ben would only have made an empty threat about not paying for the wedding if I hadn't encouraged him to make good on it. When I asked Marcus why Tori and Ellie couldn't just pay for the wedding themselves, considering that Tori has a job and Ellie runs a restaurant, he explained that, beyond the financial aspect, this had become a question of ego for them. They find it intolerable that Ben would go back on his word because of me. This situation has turned out to be much more complex than it initially appeared. It's not just about money, but about multiple layers of conflict that Tori and Ellie are unnecessarily complicating. Marcus told me that, although he has been ignoring their messages, they continue to send him texts trying to manipulate him emotionally. They insist that I should do something to fix the situation, even though we all know that they are the ones responsible and should be the ones apologizing. This whole situation is affecting Marcus so much that he has found it impossible to concentrate on other things over the last few days. I completely share his frustration because Tori and Ellie's behavior is truly irrational at the moment. I find it unbelievable that they show no consideration for what he is going through and deliberately subject him to this stress. Their selfish behavior, focused solely on their own feelings and desires, is truly absurd. Update 2. A week and a half has passed since the baby shower incident, and today, unexpectedly, I heard from Tori and Ellie. Although I honestly didn't expect them to apologize, as they seemed too proud to do so, apparently their common sense prevailed over their pride. This morning I received a call from Ellie. She had decided to keep their numbers unblocked, thinking that maybe one day they would want to apologize, and she wanted to keep that possibility open. When I answered the call, I was direct and clear from the start. I told her that if her intention was to argue or try to convince me that I was wrong, she should better hang up immediately, as I was not interested in that kind of conversation. Only if she came with a sincere apology should she continue along those lines. When she remained on the call, I invited her to continue. From the way the conversation unfolded, it was evident that Ellie and Tori were together during the call. They expressed their deep regret for their behavior, acknowledging that they had been mean and that their attitude had been completely inappropriate, especially considering my advanced state of pregnancy. They admitted that, instead of trying to reduce my stress as they should have done, they had significantly worsened the situation with their bad behavior. They also recognized the damage they had caused to Ben and Marcus, assuring me that it was never their intention to create such a family breakdown. Now, due to their pettiness, the whole family was in crisis and they had finally understood that they were the only ones responsible. They confessed to me that they had spent a long time discussing the situation, trying to find ways to blame me, but in the end they had to face the truth: everything was a consequence of their own actions. They admitted that up until that moment, their egos had prevented them from apologizing, but now they felt truly ashamed of what had happened. They asked me to consider forgiving them and suggested a dinner together with Marcus and Ben to resolve the misunderstandings. The sincerity of their call took me by surprise, and I needed a moment to process my thoughts. I explained that I needed time to reflect, as a considerable period of time had passed since the incident, and things had not been right even before that. The damage they had caused affected not only me, but also Marcus and Ben, and it was not for me to forgive them on their behalf. I told them that I could only speak for myself and that I needed time to decide whether I wanted to re-establish contact with them. I explained that my pregnancy complicated the situation, as I need to avoid situations that can be emotionally draining or stressful. The baby shower incident had affected me significantly, and naturally I wanted to avoid a similar experience. At the moment, I need to stay calm and avoid potentially upsetting situations, so I need time to reflect on whether I want to include them in my life and whether I am ready to forgive them. I made it clear to them that I couldn't speak for anyone else, and that even if they made amends to me, that wouldn't necessarily mean an automatic reconciliation with Marcus and Ben. As for the proposed dinner, I told them I couldn't commit to that at the moment. After a brief silence, they said they understood my position and asked me, even if I didn't forgive them immediately, to at least let Marcus know that they had apologized. They explained that he had been ignoring them and had recently blocked them completely, and that they felt really bad about the situation. They wanted a chance to fix things not only with me, but also with Marcus and Ben. I found myself in a difficult position because although I knew that Marcus wanted a family reconciliation, if he had decided to block them, he probably had valid reasons for doing so. I didn't want to interfere in that decision, so I told them that I would inform him of their apology, but that the decision to unblock them would be entirely up to him. Although they seemed somewhat disappointed with my response, they expressed their gratitude for my willingness to pass on the message. Finally, they confessed their regret at having implied that I was only with Marcus for financial gain, acknowledging that it was clear that my concern for him was genuine and deep, possibly even greater than their own despite being his family. They noted that the fact that I had been willing to take their call and listen to them, despite everything that had happened, showed how much I cared about Marcus' happiness. I replied by acknowledging that they were right and that it was surprising how accurate they were in that observation. After all, our love for Marcus and the desire to see him happy was something we all shared. The call ended shortly afterwards. Update 3. A couple of days have passed since the phone call, and as promised, I informed Marcus of his mother and sister's apologies, making it clear to him that the decision to unblock them was entirely his. I explained that they had asked me to pass on the message, but emphasized that there was no pressure for him to make an immediate decision. Marcus replied that he still needed time to process his feelings about the whole situation and that for now he just wanted peace and quiet. His main desire was to concentrate on spending time with me and our baby on the way, and that is exactly what he has been doing these days. His routine has been simplified to going to work and coming home. As I am on maternity leave, I spend most of my time at home, and I have been taking advantage of this free time to create a positive and happy environment for everyone. I have been busy preparing his favorite meals, and the sweetest thing is that he has also been making an effort to bring home things that he knows I like, without me having to ask him for them. One of the sweetest moments is when he is at home and talks to our baby through my belly. For me, it is the most beautiful thing in the world. These last few days have been really calm and peaceful. We haven't been talking about other people or situations. Ben occasionally contacts us to see how we are, but even that communication is kept simple and direct. However, today, after returning from work, Marcus asked me if it would be okay if he spoke to Tori and Ellie. I replied that I would be completely in agreement, as I knew that he wanted to reconcile with them, and I felt that I was also ready to take that step. Despite everything that had happened in the past, with the arrival of our baby in a few weeks, I think it is the right time to leave the problems behind and start a new chapter. I told him that if he decided to forgive his mother and sister, I would fully support him. After this conversation, we decided to contact Ben first. We wanted to know Ben's opinion on the situation. We found out that he had already resumed the dialogue with his wife and daughter a few days ago, although the situation had not completely returned to normal. His decision to talk to Ellie again was more of a practical matter, since living in the same house, the silence had become unbearable. He had also re-established some communication with Tori due to her frequent visits, but in both cases, the relationships remained cordial but distant. When we asked his opinion about a possible family dinner, Ben was enthusiastic about the idea, considering that it could help to ease the current tension and that it was the right time to do so. After speaking with him, we contacted Ellie and suggested a dinner for the weekend with her and Tori. Ellie accepted immediately and organized a conference call with Tori, who also agreed completely. So this weekend we will all get together for dinner and hopefully we can resolve our differences. I am aware that some people might not agree with my decision to give them another chance, but I honestly believe it is the right thing to do. Everyone I know, including myself, has been given second chances after making mistakes. I don't believe there is anyone who has never needed or received a second chance. Even convicts have the chance to rebuild their lives after serving their sentence. I feel it is important to try and reconcile, especially with the arrival of the baby. I don't want to start this new stage of our lives with unresolved conflicts. I want a peaceful and harmonious environment, and my parents support this decision. I know I don't need to justify my choice, but I want to express it beforehand to avoid negative comments or criticism. If someone decides to be hostile about it, that will say more about them than about me. The most important thing is that this decision makes Marcus happy, and I am hopeful that we can resolve our differences over dinner. Hopefully, by the time the baby arrives, we will be able to be a normal, close-knit family. Update 4. I'm sorry I've been away for so long. It's been several weeks and I had completely forgotten to update here, but so many positive things have happened that I want to share, starting with the family dinner. The meeting turned out even better than I had hoped. From the start, both Tori and Ellie sincerely apologized, expressing their deep regret for their previous behavior and admitting that they felt ashamed for their distasteful and unjustified actions, especially considering that I had always been kind to them. The sincerity of their apologies pleasantly surprised me, and although they initially maintained certain reservations, their behavior after the dinner demonstrated a genuine change. They began to visit us more frequently and showed themselves to be truly willing to help, doing everything possible to make me feel comfortable in their presence. Over time, I could see that their remorse was genuine, something they reinforced with additional apologies on subsequent occasions. I finally decided to forgive them completely, and last week, when I went into labor, the whole family was there to support us. Both my family and Marcus' family were there, and when our little girl finally came into the world, the joy was indescribable. Since then, Marcus, our daughter, and I have been having a wonderful time. My parents, his parents, and even Tori and her fiancé have been showing us constant support, sending us gifts frequently and helping us in any way they can so that we can dedicate all our energy to our baby. This is a summary of everything that has been happening, and although I have been too busy with my new life to update before, I am glad to be able to share this good news. Now I must return to my baby, who is starting to get restless. I am deeply grateful that everything has turned out so well and I feel truly happy.